I never imagined I'd be writing this, but I honestly don't know if I made the right decision. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was about to marry the love of my life. My fiancée, Emily, not her real name, and I had been together for almost 6 years. We met at work, survived long distance during the pandemic, bought a small house together, and spent months planning what we both called our dream wedding. Everything seemed perfect. She was funny, ambitious, and the kind of person who could make friends with anyone. I trusted her completely. We shared passwords, knew each other's families, and had never had any major issues with jealousy. When her bridesmaids planned a 4-day bachelorette trip to Miami, I didn't think twice about it. "Go have fun," I told her. "This is your weekend." She laughed, kissed me goodbye, and promised she'd bring me back something cheesy from the beach gift shops. The first day seemed normal. She sent pictures of the hotel pool, drinks by the ocean, and a group selfie with her friends. We texted throughout the evening, and before going to bed she messaged me, "I miss you already." The second day was different. Her replies became shorter. Hours would pass before she'd answer. I assumed she was busy. After all, it was a vacation with her closest friends. That night she texted around 2 a.m. "Sorry, crazy night lol." I smiled and went back to sleep. The next day I noticed something strange. One of her bridesmaids accidentally uploaded a short Instagram story before deleting it a few minutes later. I happened to see it. It showed everyone dancing inside a nightclub. Emily was standing with a tall guy I'd never seen before. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then I watched the clip again. His arm stayed around her waist the entire time. She wasn't pulling away. She looked comfortable. Still, I refused to jump to conclusions. People dance. People drink. That didn't automatically mean anything happened. When Emily came home 2 days later, something felt off immediately. She hugged me, but it felt forced. She barely made eye contact. Instead of telling me stories about the trip like she'd planned, she said she was exhausted and wanted to sleep. Over the next several days, she became unusually quiet. She stopped talking about wedding plans. She kept checking her phone. Whenever I entered the room, she'd flip the screen face down. I asked if everything was okay. "Just stressed," she answered. I believed her. Or maybe I wanted to. 5 days later, everything changed. I was sitting in the living room when she walked in carrying 2 mugs of coffee. She looked pale. Her hands were shaking so badly that some coffee spilled onto the table. "We need to talk," she whispered. My stomach dropped. Whenever someone starts a conversation that way, you know your life is about to change. She sat across from me and stared at the floor for nearly a full minute before speaking. "I made a mistake." I asked what she meant. She started crying. She explained that during the second night in Miami, her group met another group celebrating a birthday. Everyone drank together. They all went dancing. One thing led to another. She ended up leaving the club with one of the guys. I remember my ears ringing. It felt like I couldn't actually hear the rest of her sentence. Finally, I forced myself to ask the question I never thought I'd have to ask. "Did you sleep with him?" She nodded without looking at me. The room suddenly felt silent. Every memory from the last 6 years flashed through my mind. Our first date. The proposal. The wedding invitations sitting in the next room. None of it felt real anymore. Then she reached across the table, grabbed my hand, and said something I'll never forget. "It didn't mean anything, and I need you to forgive me so we can move on." At that exact moment, I realized she wasn't asking me to understand what happened. She was asking me to erase it. I pulled my hand away. For several minutes, neither of us said a word. She kept crying while I stared at the engagement ring on her finger. Just a week earlier, we'd been arguing over flower arrangements and whether we should have a live band or a DJ. Now I was wondering if I even knew the woman sitting across from me. Finally, I asked the question that had been eating away at me. "Why did you do it?" She shrugged through tears. "I was drunk. I waited. She added everyone was having fun. He was flirting with me all night. I don't know. I just wasn't thinking. That answer somehow hurt more than if she'd admitted she had feelings for him. There wasn't some tragic explanation. There wasn't months of unhappiness or some hidden problem in our relationship. She had simply decided that, for one night, our 6-year relationship wasn't worth protecting. I asked another question. Did your friends know? She hesitated. That pause told me everything. Eventually, she nodded. They tried to stop me at first. They told me to come back to the hotel. So why didn't you? I don't know. Then came another painful confession. One of her bridesmaids had actually called her phone over 20 times after she left the nightclub. Emily ignored every call. She didn't come back until almost 9 the next morning. I leaned back on the couch trying to process everything. So everyone knew except me. She whispered, yes. And you all came back, smiled at me, and acted like nothing happened. She couldn't answer. A few minutes later, she quietly admitted something else. She hadn't planned to tell me. I looked at her in disbelief. What? I was going to take it to my grave. Then why tell me now? She wiped her eyes. One of the girls said she'd tell you if I didn't. That hit me harder than the cheating itself. She wasn't confessing because guilt suddenly overwhelmed her. She confessed because someone else forced her hand. I stood up and walked outside. I spent nearly an hour sitting in my car without turning the engine on. When I finally came back inside, she asked the same question she'd asked before. Can you forgive me? I answered honestly. I don't know. The next few days were miserable. She apologized constantly. She promised it would never happen again. She offered to quit drinking, start therapy, share her location at all times, and even sign a prenuptial agreement. She said she'd do absolutely anything to save the relationship. But every promise came after the damage had already been done. The hardest part wasn't imagining what happened that night. It was realizing how many decisions she had to make before it happened. She chose to keep drinking. She chose to leave the club. She chose to get into another man's car. She chose to ignore her friends' phone calls. She chose to come home and pretend everything was normal. None of those choices were accidents. A week later, we met with both of our parents to explain why the wedding had been postponed. Emily admitted everything herself. Her father looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Her mother cried quietly. My parents didn't yell. My dad simply asked Emily one question. If he had done this to you at his bachelor party, would you still? Emily didn't answer. She couldn't, because we all knew the truth. She wouldn't have forgiven me. A few days later, I canceled the venue, the caterer, the photographer, and every other booking we had made. We lost several $1,000s in deposits. It was painful, but not nearly as painful as spending the rest of my life wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life by ignoring such a massive betrayal. Emily begged me one final time. Please don't let one horrible night erase 6 amazing years. I looked at her and quietly replied, it wasn't one night. She looked confused. I continued. It was hundreds of choices that all led to the same place. She started crying again. I handed her the engagement ring. I can't marry someone I no longer trust. We divided the house, split our savings, and went our separate ways. The first few months were brutal. There were days I questioned my decision. People kept telling me that everyone makes mistakes. Maybe they are right. But marriage is built on trust. If that foundation is cracked before the wedding even happens, I don't know how you build a lifetime on top of it. It's been almost a year now. I'm doing much better. I've started dating again, although I'm taking things slowly. Sometimes I still think about what happened. Not because I miss her, but because I miss the future I thought we were going to have. As for Emily, I heard through mutual friends that she's still single. Apparently, the guy from Miami disappeared the day after their hookup. No relationship. No romance. No happily ever after. Just one impulsive decision that destroyed 2 lives and 6 years of memories. So, Reddit, did I overreact by calling off the wedding after my fiancée cheated during her bachelorette trip? Or was ending the engagement the only realistic choice?